All right, sorry about that. Okay, so I got another thing I need to do. Take these all these spangles off.
It's the business tea, baby.
Oh my God, this weekend was so awesome. So there's a few things that I want to bring to the table. Now, you know, this is the business tea. And so what we do is we tie in the personal stuff to the business stuff and see how they can relate. So over the weekend, I had went to this gathering, right? I went to this event. It was some beautiful people in the room. I mean, when I say beautiful, so much wisdom, so much experience and so much skills. And I'm so glad that I showed up because at some point I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And so I ended up going and I was like, wow, like after going because of the crowd, it was just an amazing experience and I was so blessed. I was so grateful that I took the initiative to get up, get dressed, and get there. And so I was thanking myself, like on the way home, I was like, oh, I'm so glad that I went to that event because it was mind blowing. And so one of the things that stood out most to me, and you guys know when I show up at events and I show up at gatherings, that is a time for therapy, like just to kind of see, how everybody's doing, what are they currently working on. So there is actually like table topics, you know what I'm saying? Like people enjoy having me at their events because they think that I go to network. I don't really go to network. I really go just to have that experience, to be able to, sit and talk to people. Because sometimes this is the real deal. Sometimes people have in their intention to go to events to be able to talk and express themselves and to be able to use it as a tool of therapy. But some people don't even know that. It's just, you know, it is a habit. And so when you have that type of habit, when you just show up to events because you want to be able to release yourself, to be able to rejoice yourself, to be able to have someone to talk to and have that listening ear, then you may come across somebody like me who's like, oh yeah, let me know what's going on. Spill all of your good and your bad. Spill everything out to me. I'ma listen. I'ma give you feedback. We're gonna have a real nice conversation, a real positive conversation at the end. So basically, some people go to events just for that moment, just to be able to get a good listener to hear what they're currently going through or what they're working on. And so that's who I am when I show up to events. I am that listening ear. And so I am a conversation starter. I like to see who's in the room, like what is everybody going through or what type of vibes is in here. And so it just takes me one conversation with someone to know what the environment is like, what type of night is going to be or what type of event is going to be in general. It just takes one conversation with one particular person, no specific person, but one person in general. I can be able to assess the room. Okay, so fast forward. So this one particular conversation, we talked about children. And so we were talking about how children are just regular people. And so I knew this was going to be an interesting conversation because I'm constantly having this talk with people, grown adults. I'm having this talk with people, letting them know, hey, don't forget that children are just regular human beings. Like they're just a little person. They're still a person. They're still people, but they're a little person. They are little people. And so she said, we have to remember, especially when we're raising our young girls, that they are human. They are human. And so the moment we realize that and we don't forget that, we can help our girls grow. We can help them get to a level where they meet their highest potential. But when we take that away from them, when we feel like they are not human, and so you're going to run into that roadblock where you can't get through to them because you're not treating them like they're a human being. And I thought that was very, very catchy because you get a lot of people who say that children are not supposed to have a voice. Children are nobody. Children should just shut up and be quiet. I thought that was very interesting when you have people in this world who understand you as a person and what your belief system is. So, a part of my belief system is that children should have a voice. Like when I was growing up, I was a child and I wanted to be heard. And so a lot of times people are like, oh, I cannot wait till I have kids, or I have kids. And because I have kids, I'm not going to put them through what I was put through when I was growing up. And that's one of my things. I'm like, when I was growing up, I wanted a voice. I wanted people to hear me. And so now that I have children, I'm sure my children want to be heard. And so I have this thing in my mind where children are people. They are, a younger version of us. And we were once there. So at the end of the day, they are human. We are human. So respect goes both ways. And so the conversation that we had at this event, it basically aligned with what my belief system is about children. Children are the future. Children, we used to be children. So how do our experience, how do our current life relates to our children? It's simple. We were once there. So why is it that we're so hardcore on children when we were once there? When we once had a hard time listening. We once had an attitude problem. We were once going back and forth about something with our parents. We were once being defiant. And so now that we're older and we have children, we forgot that we used to do the same thing our children do. So what she was saying was, instead of knocking that down and saying, stop, you're a child, you can't do that, you can't cry, you can't talk back, you can't, get bad grades. Dig deep in your history, dig deep into your past and realize that you were once there. Out of 10 things that your child do, I'm sure you did half of them and probably worse. So how can you be a hypocrite and say, oh, you better bring those A's home. You better have all A's. But when you were a child, did you have all A's? Like at some point you have to say, okay, I accept you for who you are. But you have to come better. I will not accept this as who you are. But yet we can move forward past this and learn from what you just experienced. So at this given moment, we're not saying that our children are such a bad person because they didn't get the grades that we expected. What we're saying is, okay, I understand you got bad grades. I've been there before. Now let me hold your hand and walk you this way so we can do better for an upcoming assignment, or so we can do better for the grade period that's approaching. And I think we missed that. And so with this conversation, I was like, wow, I said, if we have people like this in the world who believe in what I believe in, like, why not make this a movement? And I was so excited. I was like, man, it just feels good to hear that people have the same, well, not the same vision, but similar vision, a vision that aligns with what my vision is. And I was so thrilled about that. And so it amazes me that people are diverse. Like there are diverse people in this world. And sometimes people don't even know that they're diverse. So let's look up the word diverse. Let's look up the word diverse. So diverse, showing a great deal of variety, and then semicolon, very different. Okay. Showing a great deal of variety, very different. Now, If you don't know the definition of diverse, you would never know that you're diverse. Some people are in this world and they are very diverse and they are an expert in diversity. But because they don't know the definition, or it's not something on their main concern, if it's not up there with their main concern or it's not a top priority, they're not going to relate themselves as being diverse. In our communities, in the workforce, we need more diversity. And so for me to meet this person and they go over this similar belief that I have, tells me that this person is diverse. But yet we don't get out into the community. We don't get this energy into the world because we only go to these little gatherings where the information does not get spreaded. And so we need to, at some point, grab this person, grab this individual, right? Because they believe in what I believe in. I need to grab this person and I need to make a movement because we need more people with diversity in this world. And so for her to have that belief in and be able to explain it to me tells me that she's an expert in diversity. And we have to understand that children are human, but they're different, right? Just the same as if you are dealing with someone who has a French background. Just because they're from a different country doesn't mean that they're not human. They are still regular people. They still deserve respect. If you have someone from Jamaica, they may cook their food a little different. But because they're from Jamaica, they are still human and they still want to be heard. Then that goes back to our children. They are regular people and they still want to be heard. And respect goes both ways. There we have it. And I think if we can master this part, if we can master this little part, we can have a better workforce. We can have better people in our community. All you have to do is treat the younger generation with respect. Give them a voice. No, we're not going to honor everything you say. No, we're not going to take your demands well. No, you cannot talk back after I have given you instructions. But if they decide to do, all we can do is coach them and redirect them. Let's say they're having a bad day. Oh, you know what? This is how I knew that she believed in what I believed in. She told me that boys can cry. Men can cry. When she told me that, when she told me she believed that boys can cry, oh, I knew she was diverse. But the biggest thing in our culture is mothers who raise their sons and tell them they can't cry. Are you kidding me? Listen, who are we raising if we're raising boys to tell them that they can't cry? What are they going to do when they get out in society? When they come across that bad cop, what are they going to do? You can't express yourself, son. You are to grow to be a big huncho man. You can't cry. So what do you want them to do with these emotions? And so this is the stuff that she brought up to me. And I talk about this stuff all the time. And for this person to address this to me, I felt like, wow, this is a perfect match. Because sometimes you look for people to be relatable. That's a good word, relatable. And you know, when you have a strong belief system, sometimes it's hard to find those people who can relate, or it's hard to find those people who believe in what you believe in. And so for her to bring these things up to me and then say, oh, you know, the girls, you know, they need our support and we should not tear them down, but give them a safe haven. Give them a safe zone. Oh, remember you were once a young girl, so don't talk down on her. And I was like, That's true. And then we took a turn and we started talking about the boys. She said, hey, my best advice to you, never tell a boy that he can't cry, that he cannot express himself or show emotions. And when she said that, I was like, I understand. Now, if she knew that I understand, I don't know. But I understand because that's what I believe. I believe that being in HR, you kind of see how people were raised, and you can tell the belief system that they have based on a frame of questions. You can determine, how they were raised, what their background is, as far as parent wise. Were they in a single family home? Did they were they living in poverty? Were they living this lavish lifestyle? Maybe the family was well off and wealthy, and you can kind of hear these things based off of an interview. And so, as my role being a recruiter, you get a chance to assess these things and survey, not majority, because it would take enough people to get through to be able to say that this certain group is this way or this culture is this way. So I don't have the statistics, no, but when I am in my role of recruiting, I'm interviewing people, and based on the questions, I can decide, I can determine, just for my own good, not for any other sake, but just for my own good, I can determine what type of person that I'm dealing with as far as their background. Okay. And having that position, sometimes I get so caught up in a moment where I'm like, man, if this person was able to express themselves when they were a little child, they would be in a better place today. But it seems like something held them back when they were younger, and they was not able to express their emotions, or they're not able to address their opinion. They can't even have a full conversation because they don't have the experience to do so. But we want to add them into the workforce. So now they need maximum amount of training as far as dealing with people, dealing with the public, because they never had that experience when they were a child on how to collaborate with people, how to be in a group setting. And I believe, just like most people believe, this starts from home. This starts from when you were a child. That's the difference when they say levels of experience. That's why you have entry level. But even entry level is not going to take you backwards and teach you the things that your parents should have taught you when you were in their household. So being able to express yourselves like as a child, being able to express yourself, I feel like if you have that experience when you were a child, to express yourself, to cry, to show emotions, if you had that when you were a child, by the time you get to the workforce, you will be able to know when to express yourself and when not to express yourself, because you have that experience. But if you're raising your children and taking that emotion phase from them and saying, hey, you better not cry, I'm gonna hit you right now, you better not cry, I'm about to put you on punishment for a month, you better not cry. Well, what do you want them to do? Like she said, there should be some type of outlet or a solution that you're offering them. If you're telling them they cannot cry, you should be giving them another option on what to do if they wanted to cry. And I think that's something that we miss. And it don't take much to figure out, what do we need to do for our children to give them a better life when they grow up. And I would say all of this plays a part in, like, let's just say people who want to own a business, but yet you were taking your rights from you as a child, where you couldn't express yourselves, you could not address your opinion. You just didn't have a voice. And so it can be a good and bad thing when you get older, because some people, everybody's different. That was another thing she said. She said, every child is different. Every person is different. Every human is different. So if you get into your adulthood and you weren't able to express your emotions or your feelings when you were a child, some people, when they get older, they are so creative. They are the best people. They have so much energy, they have so much voice and so much creativity, because they were always holding it back when they were a child. So now that they're an adult, they can benefit from the things that they wanted to let out, but was held back by maybe a parent who didn't agree with them expressing themselves. And so there is a good and bad to that. But the whole moral of the story is, people are people, human are human. And so when we treat our children as such, then we would have better children, we'll have better adults to come. And we cannot be hypocritical about everything. We have to remember that we were once there. And I think we forget that part. And I think once we realize that we have to take it easy on our children and we can't be hypocritical, I think we can live a better life as an adult. And for, let's just say, entrepreneurs, if you are an entrepreneur mom and you have younger children, karma, think about karma. If you do as you want done to you. So if you are being respectful and you are being positive to your children, you would get that same energy. It may not be all the time, but it will be, you will get that energy, because karma is karma no matter what age the person is, no matter, what group of people we're talking about. Karma is karma. So let's do good to our children, and our children will do good to us. Sometimes we have to do extra techniques, we got to use extra resources for our children. But at the end of the day, these are our children. So every child is different. So at some point we have to, pull certain strings, or we have to get them to do what we need them to do. But as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to have long nights, working on projects and stuff. As a business owner, you were once a child. So why forget that? It's very important to remember where we come from. Okay. And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, you were once a child. You were once a child. And I think that's why we have a lot of business owners who are, expressing themselves with violence. Like there was this one restaurant where, a fight broke out and he beat the guy up. So I was like, wow, I'm thinking, for someone to think, for someone to even have a conversation about people not respecting children, or people not allowing children to express themselves, that means that it is a problem in our community. And we can't be raising our boys telling them they can't cry. We can't do that. It has to be something better to say. And every time that I'm hearing that boys don't cry, men aren't supposed to cry and all this stuff, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So with that being said, I want to motivate people to get out, network, but network in the intentions of either being heard or listening. And so not to network just to see how you can benefit from somebody, but just to be in an environment to learn from someone. And I felt that this was wisdom coming, in each ear. And I'm like, woo, give me more, because for someone to believe in something that I've been trying to push, it's just interesting. It's interesting to know that there are people out there with similar views. And I don't know who else believe that boys shouldn't cry. I don't know who else believe that. But for her to say it, I just feel like, man, it's probably a world full of people who believe that it's okay for boys to cry. I believe that if we get majority of people to raise their children, raise their boys to cry, not just to cry like, intentionally, but to say it's okay to cry. Because just because you say it's okay doesn't mean that they're going to do it, but it's just saying you have the option to do so. So I think if majority of us raise our boys telling them it's okay to cry, I feel like we can have a better workforce. We can have better fathers. We can have better business owners. And I think we're missing that key thing when we're taking that away from them and not giving them the option or, like she said, a different outlet. So yeah, you would have to give them a different solution. If you're taking that solution from them, right, expressing their emotions, then you have to give them another solution. Okay. And just like me, I don't believe in physically disciplining our children. I believe in talking. Let's talk this out, because when you go out into the real world, right? When you become a business owner, let's just say, you become the CEO of a company, right? You may become a founder of a company. And when something don't sit right with you, you can't just hit them. You can't physically abuse your employees. You can't beat down the customers. No, you will have a case. So you have to talk it out. So that same experience, talking it out with your children, they would eventually learn that when they get older, when they're pulled over by the cops, when they're trying to get that nice career job, when they're trying to be a business owner. They will have that same energy. They will have that same skill and experience. Instead of physically harming someone, physically touching someone, you can talk to them. You will have a voice to express yourself. You will have a voice to say what's right and what's wrong. But if they don't learn that experience as a child, they end up learning it while they're an adult. And so sometimes that's the hardest challenge, is trying to learn something when you're an adult, when you should have already learned it when you was a child. So, the business tea, we're going to tie all this stuff in. This may be the reason why your business is struggling, because you are learning things when you were supposed to learn it in childhood. You're learning it as an adult. And you probably was the child that was raised and didn't have a voice. So now you're finally getting a voice to speak and you don't know what to say. And it's that simple. So my advice is to, not only believe in what I believe in, because what I believe in is the best belief, but I want you guys to get out and mix and mingle with people. And don't do it in the intentions of what's in it for me. Do it to be a listener. Do it to be a listener. And I guarantee you will find wisdom. And another thing, not all conversations, like the first conversation, you probably may not hit it off, but after a few of them, you will start determining, okay, do I want to spend time with this conversation, or should I move around to another conversation? Because every conversation is not going to be a positive conversation, or it's not going to be something, where it's going to, all conversations are good conversations, period. We're going to leave it at that. But you have to get out and, let a person vent to you and see what type of wisdom it comes with. Now, imagine if I was in that room and I was a wallflower and I just sat there, I would have never found someone who believed in something that I believe in. So I'm just so happy that I was able to come across this person, and I am hoping and searching for more people to believe that, our girls, we have to raise them a certain way. Children are human beings. Boys should show emotions. They should cry if they need to. And these particular things will help us in the workforce. They will help us with better businesses, because now our business owners are more experienced, and they are relatable. They are understanding. They know how to communicate. They know how to have a good conversation with the customer. And so these things are how life ties into each other, personal versus business. Okay, so make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, follow, share it again, but make sure you guys interact, because the support is real. And my name is Nicole Renee, and you guys, let's keep this coming.